link. So I apologize for here we are. Here we get a few more people here. Hi, Millie. How are you? Long time no see.
Kathleen, did you say you have an attorney, Amir, and he's going to speak for only 20 minutes?
Yeah, exactly. He's a rare breed. He's a rare breed. And look at that beautiful smile. Yes. Okay, here comes a few more people. We're doing good, Michael. We're doing good.
Yeah. Cody.
All right, so it's 6:08.
Yes.
Why don't we, everyone, again, except for the three of us that are the co-presenters, if you could mute yourselves now, that would be fabulous. And then Michael, there's probably a way for us to mute people as they come in. Here comes someone else. They keep coming in. Yep. Oh, Lois, great, you made it.
Hello.
Hello, hello, welcome, welcome.
That other one, but
Sorry we can't offer you any wine
Can't hear
today.
anyone.
Who can't hear?
Oh, I better go my other computer. Oh, is it?
We can hear you.
We can hear you loud and clear. Here we go. Very good. All right, so if everyone, as you come on, if you could mute yourselves, I would appreciate that so we don't have a lot of ambient background noise.
When's the last time you did a hard reboot?
All right. Let me,
Excuse me?
there we
Here
go.
comes Deborah. Okay, and here comes Jacob. All right, we should give a shout out to Jacob too. All right. I think everyone is graduating to the advanced Zoom class now.
yes, got on.
And I'm not presenting it except for maybe some apps within Zoom that I can discuss. Anyway, welcome everyone. We'll get started now. And if you would mute yourselves, that'll be really helpful so we don't pick up any ambient noise. I'm Kathleen Freitag. I know most of you. And then Michael Jackson is my good friend and colleague at Coldwell Banker Realty in the Novato office. As you know, we both have combined probably over 50 years experience in the real estate world. So a really good resource for you, for any questions at all real estate related, or if you need any other ancillary services, we're always happy to help. So this is our first Zoom meeting that Michael and I have launched. So we're very excited that you're joining us this evening. The meeting will last, I think, probably about 45 minutes, depending on Q&A at the end. Amir is here, and he is an attorney. Want to disclose that right up front. He is an attorney, and he's going to talk about Prop 19, which has been a lot of questions about that. So he'll probably speak for about 20 minutes, and then Michael and I will discuss briefly some other, more affordable areas in California, just to kind of whet your appetite if you're thinking along those lines. And that's basically it. Michael, do you want to say something before I introduce Amir?
I just wanted to thank you all for showing up. Good evening. And Kathleen is my colleague and partner when she's on vacation. She doesn't know I'm going on vacation, so she'll be my tag team partner. So she's going to have to show some properties for me as well. Leaving to Hawaii soon. Hold on.
Nice.
Oh, God. Now I have my 4-year-old. Welcome. Part of the Zoom. Anyway, yeah, so I'm excited because I work with seniors. My focus is on seniors, and I think it's important for me to know, what's going on with Proposition 19 and help educate my clients, former clients, and potential clients of what's going on here. And it's huge. I mean, it's a huge opportunity to move out and not be contained in Marin County or county to county. Now it's anywhere in California. And when Kathleen told me about that, I was like, wow, I got excited. I don't get excited about too many things, but that excited me. And yeah, looking forward to hearing what Amir has to say. And I've gotten a few questions. I cheated and gotten a few questions in, but I'm sure there'll be other questions that I didn't come up with that you guys would come up with. So
Yeah, great, great. And Amir Sarreshtehdary is an attorney with vast experience. He has offices in San Rafael, San Francisco, as well as Palo Alto. And I believe, Amir, you said you're teaching as well at Golden Gate?
I do. That's
Yeah.
correct. For about 6
Yeah.
years now. I've been
Yeah, and he teaches at Golden Gate. And he came to our networking group, North Bay Business Connections, and he was brought in by one of our fellow members, and he spoke to us early about Proposition 19. And I like the way he presents. He's, very plain speaking, very clear, very loud for those of us that may have some hearing issues. So I really, really appreciate that. So Amir, the floor is yours. So if everyone can mute themselves, and if you have any questions, you can put them in the chat, and Michael is going to monitor the chat.
Great.
Okay, all right.
Thank you, Kathleen. Thank you, Michael, for having me. And hello, everyone. Hope everyone has been doing well in these times. Good old Prop 19. So I know the topic of tonight's discussion is kind of, can I afford to stay in California? So Proposition 19 has definitely had its challenges. It is the law, so we have to accept it for now. I'll go into some of the caveats that deal with it. But what I wanted to focus on in the brief moment of time that I'm going to be discussing is really think of it as the perks. So we'll start off with kind of the good news part of it, and maybe the not so good news. But there's definitely some guidance we're getting day by day, literally, as to what the future might hold, even with the current law. So a lot of the information that, if you're curious when it comes to Prop 19, you can go to the state board. The Board of Equalization, the BOE for California. And that's going to contain a lot of good information, a lot of frequently asked questions, graphs and charts that they've put together to show the chart that they had at that point set the current law, because it was really from November until February 16th. And then afterwards, it became the new law, or Prop 19. Most of us for our practicing years were accustomed to the rules and the laws according to which is now the outdated old law. But let's start off with really what this law or this act proposition introduced. So really the base year value transfer, and I'm just looking at a cheat sheet off the BOE's website. Persons at least age 55. So if you recall, the proposition was really phrased for fire victims, as well as seniors, as well as the disabled. So people that are persons at least age 55 or disabled, really dealing with their primary residence. The old law really permitted the cost basis for the property taxes to be maintained one time. It was a transfer of one time. And one of, again, the quote unquote perks of Prop 19 provided 3 times. So it's kind of a 3 strikes versus a 1 strike. And I've already seen that certain people are taking advantage of that. And it's a great thing. It definitely is, because people that say, oh, I've already used it, now I feel almost handcuffed to be able to move, and mobility wise, that's not really an issue, because it's extended the number of times you can do it. The other big perk, I would say, is really and when I use the analogy of being handcuffed, is maybe I want to go from one county to another, but under the previous law, there were only basically 10 counties that had kind of reciprocated or permitted this transfer to occur. Now it's pretty much throughout all the counties. So we've got 58 counties throughout California. So that's, again, a much more lenient outlook on the permissible transfers that one can take. And in terms of when the quote unquote new law went into effect, it's April 1st. So, several weeks ago. And there are certain value limits. I don't want to really get into that right now too much, but again, if you want to know some of the limitations or some of the rules, that's something that could be pretty easily found on the BOE's website. Now, in terms of again, this proposition, it was really constructed, or those who were voting when they looked at the ballots, when they looked at that proposition, again, the title of it was that it was for fire victims and from the California fire, different fires that we've had, and also for seniors / disabled. One of the big things that was limited, and now, so I started off kind of with the good news. Some look at it as the bad news. It depends on, again, the way you look at things. There are different camps and outlooks and philosophies, but a lot of people are up at arms right now saying that the proposition was misrepresented to the voters, because a big part that was limited or gutted had to do with this parent-to-child exclusion, which is a very, very big, it may not seem until you start quantifying and putting together. You can actually, I've been doing this with CPAs and putting projections of what that means year after year and how much savings that would be. So let me explain what I'm talking about. So, under the old law, there was this rule that you could pass on your primary or principal residence of any value to a child or potentially grandchild to a grandparent to grandchild, but it depended on, it didn't matter about the value. It could be a house, again, that's $40 million where the cost basis was much lower and mom and dad were paying property taxes at a fractional amount of what it is now, plus another $1 million of assessed value. And that's critical because, again, if the properties were bought in the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, there's been a lot of appreciation in the Bay Area and almost every county, some counties more than others, but we're talking about major appreciation. And those children were able to keep that low cost basis. And again, please remember, I should have started off by saying there are different taxing regimes. We're really focusing on property tax. So, another talk I get into what's kind of in the horizons for the estate and gift tax. It is a very exciting yet kind of frustrating time to be practicing right now, because there are a lot of changes that are going to be implemented at some point, and that pendulum will be swinging at some point, both on the estate and gift tax. We've already seen it at the California level on the property tax side. And then, as you've probably been reading or hearing about, and the stock market's been reflecting it, on the income tax side. So you've been hearing about President Biden's propositions and proposals regarding the capital gains and the step up in the tax basis. So that's on the income tax. So, a lot of times people just say taxes, and you've got to kind of compartmentalize whether we're talking about property tax, estate and gift, or income. And right now I'm talking really purely about property taxes. So it was a primary residence of any value before, and another $1 million. That $1 million under the new law, that's been gutted, that's been stripped. That's no longer a freebie. So, again, in terms of transfers occurring really after February 16th, and I'm going to talk about that in just a little bit, then it's really down to the primary residence. And when it's the primary residence, what was happening was that children were renting out these properties, maybe getting $5,000, $10,000, depending on where the house was. I had a client whose mother passed away, who had owned a property in Belvedere, and he was getting close to $25,000 of kind of passive income monthly, and was just kind of doing property management. And there again, this is where you might fall into one camp versus the other. One camp sees that as that person is not really being a contributing member of society, potentially, that they're getting this windfall for mom having invested at the right place at the right time, and that property is just, he's not living in it, he's renting it out, and therefore there's not really a change in hands. So a lot of, again, Prop 19 really put a squash on that. So really, for that primary residence, within 1 year, when the child needs to move in and they have to file a homeowner's exemption within that 1 year of transfer. So it's not as if that child can, again, not reside in the property, rent it out. And I think I mentioned, it became effective February 16th. Now, in my world, what's happening is that people are calling saying, I was telling Michael that I'm meeting with a client tomorrow whose father passed away first week of February. So again, I've spoken with numerous different counties, the assessor's offices, and the assessors themselves directly, just to confirm that the date of transfer there would have been marked at the date of death. So the argument will be made to keep under the old law that the transfer, that the parent-to-child exclusion should apply it's not really retroactively, but it's because the transfer occurred when mom or dad passed away before that February 16th cutoff. I know I can speak on behalf of the county recorder's office, assessor's office, just other attorneys, that it's been a frantic last several months since this did pass. And yes, again, it's the law. It passed by a very narrow margin. I think by 50, it was 51.1. So by 1.1%. So it's the law. We have to deal with it. With that said, the way that the law many times, and you might be hearing this on the income tax side of things or the estate tax side of things, is where people are saying, can it be retroactively applied or can it be changed? So, with Prop 19, there's been so much dust that's been kind of kicked up because of, again, voters feeling that they were duped, bamboozled, whatever you want to call it, not knowing that they were giving away this big perk of, and again, yes, it does impact those clients that own mansions in Bel Air, Beverly Hills, wherever it might be, or the Tiburon Belvedere. But the majority of people that this is going to impact would be someone who bought a home, worked really hard, bought a home somewhere in the Bay Area. A lot of clients that have been calling me bought homes in the Sunset District of San Francisco, for example, in the 70s. And again, they have a much lower cost basis for property taxes versus what it would be if the child weren't to move in and to declare it as their primary residence. Now, one thing that, and hot off the presses, Kathleen, thanks for forwarding this to me. I actually started getting it flooded to me by other people, some former clients sending it to me. But just recently in the IJ, as of April 24th, there was an article that was written talking about, and the title is Proposition 19 Unleashes Wave of Marin Property Transfers. And it just says that, quote, I believe voters were really misled. And it's just one person speaking about, what's happened, and that the Marin County Assessor Recorder, Shelley Scott, Ms. Scott, who I had the pleasure of on a previous call, she actually participated. And this is when things were just, again, they were getting inundated. And she said, Amir, you wouldn't even imagine, you don't even know how busy we are. But just to let you know, to quantify it, it's quoting her. She had said that her office processed 660 parent-to-child transfers between November 4th, immediately after voters passed Proposition 19, through February 16, the last day property owners could take advantage of the former parent-to-child rules. Scott said her office processed just 54 parent-to-child transfers during the same period in 2019 and 2020. So as you can tell, it's quite a few more people doing these transfers. And part of it was I was getting calls from people that wanted to do the transfers, and it didn't really behoove them, or they weren't fully understanding the intricacies or the interplay between property taxes and the income tax, or the step up in the tax basis, which again is a whole nother topic. But for those who are concerned, or who feel that maybe this wasn't really fair to the taxpayer and the voters, that article goes on to mention, and there's a bill that I've been trying to follow pretty closely. It's Senate Bill 668, which you may want to look into. And this is really the pioneer behind this is Senator Pat Bates's office. And it says that it will be up for a vote as early as May 6th in the Senate Governance and Finance Committee. What that's trying to do is to allow 2 more years to do Prop 19 planning. And that's huge because, again, please think about the short, and the analogy I was using with clients is this is an ultra short fuse, and people really were shooting from the hips, making not really calculated decisions just because they would read a little article in the Chronicle or online and they would say, I want to transfer my home to my kid. And then you have the discussion with them. So are you telling me that you're ready to come off of title and have your child be the owner? What about liquidity in your senior years that you might have built equity in that home? A lot of people didn't think about that. They just saw and they wanted to, it was just a knee-jerk reaction that they had. And unfortunately, I think, again, there was a lot of, misperception. I'll be honest with you. I know a lot of attorneys that it's been a lucrative, tail end of the year and first several months of the year to do a lot of what's called intentionally defective grantor trusts, to create a bunch of entities like LLCs, family limited partnerships, because there are certain rules that apply differently when it's a legal entity. So again, it is the law, we're dealing with it, but I can tell you that day to day, and again, there's 58 different counties within California. Unfortunately, what is happening is that the counties don't necessarily see eye to eye. So, there are loopholes, they're trying to work it out. But I'm already hearing clients say, oh, my brother who's in Orange County already got this determination, or it played out this way, or his neighbor told him that it played out this way. So we're good in Marin, correct? And there's part of that, well, every county is different. We're going to make the argument that, again, will be a proponent for an advocate for the client, but it's not surprising that the assessor office maybe comes back and says no, there's going to be partial or full reassessment, and then one has to appeal the process. From again what I've heard kind of anecdotally, the outfall of all this, or the fallout of it, will be that there probably will be some lawsuits where one county treated it one way and another county treated it another way. But I think with the Senate Bill 668 and other advocacy groups and lobbying groups, I would not be too surprised if some of that meat on the old proposition comes back. To what extent, I'm not sure. Maybe it will just be buying of some time. Maybe it'll be a partial repeal. Maybe it'll be a full repeal. Maybe we'll have another proposition next kind of ballot, next time we're voting, that's going to reinstate. And again, that was the law since what, 86. So I was saying, most people during their practicing career, we were just on kind of autopilot when it came to those rules. And all of a sudden there was this kind of shift in paradigm where it's like, wait a minute, that was the old way. Now we got to get used to the new way. And, I don't want to keep going on, but, please also just be on the lookout for not only changes on the property tax, as I mentioned, but really on the income tax, and potentially on the estate and gift tax, because right now rates are at the exemption amount is at 11.7 million per person for estate taxes, and that's been at an all-time high. And the way I say it is that these stimulus packages have been signed and have passed. Where's that revenue going to come from? So the government has to raise funds from some place or places. So some of the lower hanging fruit may be on this whole thing that you're reading about on capital gains tax. And I'm not so much focused on making over $1 million, the rates going up, or the corporate tax rates going up. Those are kind of separate than, again, going back to think about your client who bought a home in San Rafael for $400,000, married couple, and one spouse has now passed away and the house is 1.2 million. Not uncommon, right? Under the current law, if it's community property, it gets that double step up in the tax basis. So it provides that surviving spouse a chance to say, thanks, but it's ready for me to downsize. The kids have moved out, or, I just want to downsize to a condo or a townhome. And I'm going to walk away with that much capital gains tax exposure, again, on the income tax side. But there's talks of eliminating that step up upon death. And think about just that delta. Think about, maybe your own situation where, you purchased the house and now there's $800,000 worth of gain on the table. That's a lot of revenue that can be pretty quickly generated for the government. So we'll see. And that's why I was saying it's frustrating because I tell clients, unfortunately, I don't really have that crystal ball in front of me to know what the future holds. I don't think anyone really knows that. And we'll see. It just depends on how what's passed and what gets pushed through and how long it stands until maybe a new administration or modification, or maybe a bipartisan, maybe a meeting in the middle somewhere between, because right now, unfortunately, I think the pendulums are kind of polar opposites. One is on the far, this side, and one's over here. It would be nice to kind of meet right in the middle. So it's 6:33, Kathleen. Did you want me to turn the mic over to you? I didn't want to hog the mic too much longer.
Yeah, why don't we open this up for questions? I mean, Amir is talking about Prop 19. He's talking about one of the aspects of it, which is the transfer from parent to child. But the significant thing in terms of, question about affordability, if you've been in your home for any amount of time, like a lot of my clients are, you're able to take those property taxes and move anywhere in California. Whereas before, if you had a house in Marin, and let's say it's worth $1 million, and you want to buy something in Sonoma for $800,000, and you have all cash, but you have to pay the taxes on $800,000 in Sonoma. That's no longer the case. You can bring those property taxes with you based on your current valuation in your home. So, that's one aspect of the affordability. Michael, why don't you look at the chat, or I can, either one.
Yeah, it looks like Cody Dada had a few questions.
Yeah.
And go ahead, Cody, if you want me to read them, you want to go ahead and ask them yourself?
Yeah, no problem. I can read them. Basically, what you were saying about the 55, that's pretty attractive for a lot of people to be able to move into a bigger house and pay your same taxes. But what if your wife is younger and it's community property? So does that mean that only half of the property will be excluded from that property tax increase, or will the whole property? Do you see what I'm saying there?
Yeah, good question, Cody. And honestly, I haven't really, again, dealt too much with the aftermath. Right now, it's still kind of pushing things to kind of get grandfathered in with the old law.
Right, it's uncharted territory. Sure, I understand.
Yeah, unfortunately, and I think I've asked certain questions where there's kind of, we can't give legal advice. A lot of times when you call, some of the counties, that's right. Kind of the parity.
And they don't even know either. I found a lot of times.
Unfortunately, yeah. So part of it is, I think it's going to unfold, and I'll be the first to just tell you that that's really, I think, more for real property. Maybe a real property attorney, but I haven't been dealing with it where they're let's put it this way, when they're living. So right now I'm dealing with it really on the post-mortem side. When right.
Okay. Do you know anything about the child to parent exclusion? I understand that the child has to live in it. And I just learned from you that they have up to a year to move in. So Correct. They don't necessarily have to be living at the time of death.
Correct. So before it used to be basically a 3-year or, from the time of transfer. Now it's the child has to affirmatively claim it as their primary residence by claiming that homeowner's exemption within, 1 year. And
they have to move, and they have to physically move in. Now,
correct. But I think part of the unknowns, when I last looked, was people were asking, what about the loophole of what if a child spends 6 months? Are you telling me that the county's going to reassess it for half? I'm going back to kind of your analogy. Again, these are things that I haven't dealt with so much, because that, again, is the kind of the next wave. And I think quite frankly, until a little while ago, I don't think really there was uniformity between the counties, and they were taking it one step at a time.
Uh-huh.
And to that point, what happens if the parents leave it to more than one child?
Right, yeah.
Right? So the
Then-
way,
What happens?
well, a lot of times what happens is if one child, what in the past, what would happen is that it would be deemed an intra-sibling transfer. So there could be partial
Yeah.
reassessment.
So both children would have to live in the property. Yeah, I mean, logic, right? That's a good question.
Right, that's questionable, yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of questions that are yet to be answered, and it has to be tested when it gets going, right? I think Jody has her hand up. Jody, do you want to unmute yourself?
Yeah, to piggyback on that question that Cody said. So if they hadn't transferred it by February, Amir, to a child, whether they move in or not, and whether there's multiples, have they lost that window, or is that what's under appeal? That's question one. And the other question is, you say property taxes for the transfer, Kathleen. What I want to know is, does it work if it's higher or lower? And if it's higher, do you pay the differential of the property tax of what you're selling for to what you're buying?
So to address your first question, the February 16th is the cutoff. So if the transfer occurs again, and that's the word transfer is somewhat loaded, because again, as the advocate for clients, I'm submitting documents now, I'll be submitting documents in the future where that parent passed away. So we're marking what we're calling the date of transfer, the date of death. And again, I've gotten clarification and confirmation from multiple counties that affirmatively make that clear on the preliminary change of ownership report, for example, the PCOR that accompanies the recording document. On the second page at the top, it says date of transfer if other than the recording date. Before, many attorneys used to just leave that second page blank and just not fill it out. We've been, basically given the guidance that no, you affirmatively put, and it says there's a little box that says by inheritance, and you mark that, and you say, January 28th, 25th, or whatever, 2021 was the actual date of transfer.
Okay. I had a question in the chat. What happened, if anything, to Prop 13?
What happened to Prop 13?
That still exists because people, there's their existing property tax base, right?
Right. Good question. I don't know if Prop 13 by designation is I've been really focusing on Prop 19 and the changes of, that have been enacted.
Yeah.
I can go real quick if you just give
Prop 13 does not have any age limit. So this new Prop 19 is dealing with over 55 only and transfer of tax base. Prop 13 is still in full force and effect.
Okay.
Amir, could you answer the second part of Jody's question about the formula?
Oh, formula. Yes. Let me read off of, again, kind of cheat sheet. So the value limit of the old law was equal or lesser value, 100% if replacement purchased / new construction prior to sale, 105% if replacement purchased / new construction in first year after sale, or 110% if replacement purchased / new construction in second year after sale. Prop 19, under that, the value limit is any value. However, the amount above 100% is added to transferred value.
Okay,
So
that's the way I understood.
I'll give you an example, just numbers wise. So under Prop 19, this is a question on the BOE's website. Again, I didn't come up. Under Prop 19, can I transfer my base year value to a home of any value? Yes. However, if the full cash value of the replacement home is greater than the full cash value of the original home, the difference in full cash values will be added to the transferred factored base year value. For example, an original home was sold and had a full cash value of 400,000 and a factored base year value of 100,000 at time of sale. If a replacement home is purchased for a full cash value of 600,000, the difference of 200,000, 600,000 minus 400,000 is added to the factored base year value of 100,000. Thus, the replacement home will have a new base year value of 300,000, 100,000 plus 200,000.
Makes sense.
There's another question by Evelyn G. Is there a time frame to buy or identify a new property tax transfer? Is that the question, I believe?
I'm sorry, is there a time frame
To buy
which
or
home-
identify a new property with this new proposition?
Well, again, if you're going to be claiming it as the primary resident, under the 55, for which part are we talking about? Not the parent and child. We're talking about the keeping the cost basis.
Correct.
Purchase or newly construct residence within 2 years of sale is the timing.
I think one of the issues right now is because we have such a strong seller's market and it's hard to buy. So
Right.
people would most likely, let's say, buy in a less affordable area and then sell later on. And, so that's going to be something that will be tested out, I guess, in the real world in terms of how that works.
Yeah, and to piggyback on that, a lot of people say, yeah, where am I going to go? Where am I going to move to? For value-wise, and there are areas that are affordable: San Diego, Oxnard, Southern California, compared to Marin. 1.4 median price across the board for single-family residence, and that's not the case in a lot of areas in Southern California and Sonoma County.
Yeah, so I mean, before it was 10 counties, now it's all 58 are open. So I think that will provide quite a bit of flexibility, especially for the aging population that wants to maybe downsize, or they've built so much equity in their home that they want to downsize and be able to enjoy again the senior years.
Well, especially like the Marin to Sonoma transfer, because a lot of seniors, I'm a senior now, 55 and plus, would move to Sonoma County because they could get a bigger bang for their buck. And you have Oakmont, which is a really nice enclave of single family homes and other, great. They have tennis, they have a full golf course, fitness center, social activities. And you can get a really nice house there for 600,000. But before Prop 19, you would sell your house and then you'd have to pay the market rate of property taxes in Sonoma, because Sonoma did not accept the transfer under, Prop 90. Marin County did in San Francisco because they were very expensive counties to begin with, but Sonoma never accepted the transfer. So that's a huge change right there. And even within Marin County itself, that you could move, let's say from Tiburon and sell your house for $2 million and buy a house for 1.5 in Nevada or less, and you pay the base of your taxes plus the increment, like Amir said, based on that formula, which is still significantly lower than what you would pay if you were just, buying it without that opportunity. So I think that's really good news, and we're trying to spread the news. I mean, the California Association of Realtors, which is the association that Michael and I and most full-time realtors belong to in California, they backed this proposition because they really felt, and we feel, that it could be part of the solution to our inventory crisis. And the inventory crisis, or the lack of available homes, is a huge driver in the price point that we're seeing right now. It's really great if you own a home, but then you want to move and you have no place to go. So there's many different facets to this. Many different facets.
Can I ask a quick question? So from a lender's perspective, we have a formula that we use when we're assessing debt to income ratios of we use 1.25. for a purchase price on a home. If they're transferring that tax, that could make a difference in debt to income ratios. But my understanding is that won't happen until after the sale, and it'll take some time. Do you know what, Amir, what the time period is for the assessor to readjust after the sale?
I honestly don't know. You know, I do know that I can tell you that the assessor called or sent a letter to a client whose father passed away in January, and they gave him that 45-day window of, we're gonna, you know, basically either claim parent-child or we're going to reassess. So sometimes the county, and I've had other clients that I ask, you know, has the county, dad died 2.5 years ago, you just called me last week, have you been receiving anything from the county? And they say no, because the county hasn't been, you know, hasn't caught word or hasn't received word of the person's passing. So that's the other kind of big discrepancy that I see, that it's hard to, I think, put a timeline, because I've seen it where they act real quickly and they're very strict about it. And that was the 45-day one was Sonoma County, where the client received, and she said, my father just passed away. It says the estate of, I don't even have legal authority right now, because we just filed the petition for probate. I'm not, you know, I haven't been tasked as the personal representative or the administrator. So, you know, do I even have standing to make a claim for anything right now? And the answer is yes, she does. But again, I don't know if there's really an exact, you know, time frame that I can speak on behalf of the assessors.
Right, and maybe Kathleen and Michael and Carrie or realtors on the call, if you could follow up with the assessors to say, just like new construction will get reassessed, and they only reanalyze taxes like once a year in July, I think it is.
Mhm.
And they send out supplementals. When could a potential buyer who needs to transfer that tax, so they're paying less, count on that actually hitting the roll? It would be great to know what the time frame is.
Well, we could ask Shelley that. A lot of us know Shelley.
Different from county to county.
I don't know.
So any more questions, Michael, that you can see that we need to address?
Looks like Carrie has a question. She says she believes there is $1 million maximum for children inheriting. Can we discuss this?
$1 million inheriting for the primary residence, that is correct. So I think I mentioned before, the primary residence could be of any value. Now they said, okay, we're going to keep part of that law. We're going to strip away that additional $1 million of assessed value. We'll still give you the kind of perk of passing on a primary residence. Again, the kid has to declare it or basically make it their residence. But the value limit, it says value limit of current taxable value plus 1 million as annually adjusted. So the analogy of the house, the Pacific Heights mansion or whatever, there would still be partial reassessment, even if that property is again appreciated quite a bit because of the cap that the county or in the Prop 19 that is being applied. It may not apply to the majority of homes again, but again, depending on where the homes are, Ross Canfield.
Excuse me, but even in Nevada, we have homes well over $1 million.
I'm a Nevada-wide myself, so I live in Nevada, so I agree.
So that million is the only amount that the children get to exclude. Is that correct?
It's $1 million. It's the current taxable value plus $1 million.
Okay.
So the parents bought it for $400,000 years ago, and they've owned it for a long time. Now it's worth $1.4 million, and they leave it to their kids. If the children live in the property, then they will inherit the property and the parents' property tax basis or amount, correct?
Correct.
But if the property is reassessed not at $1.4 million, but at $2.4 million, let's just say, to make the math easy,
the delta,
then the $1.4 million is at the parents' lower property tax valuation, but the extra $1 million they now reassess at the current tax rate. Do I
Correct.
have that right?
Correct. There's that partial reassessment again
Okay.
for the overage.
Yeah, that's something that was not explained. When they voted in Prop 19, nobody said there was going to be a max. Because Novato, don't we have the median price of $1.4 million, Kathleen, right now?
In the county, but not in Novato. And Novato median is just a little over $1 million now, like 1.1.
All right, close. Yeah, not quite, but close.
Yeah,
We're
yeah.
getting there.
I know it's really kind of crazy, but it's true. Yeah. Okay. Do we answer the questions on Prop 19, Michael, as far as you can tell?
So the other question is it $1 million per parent?
Oh.
Good point. So under the old law, yes, and that's something that people were not really they thought it was just a one time. What we were doing again under the old regime was that we were claiming it on for each parent. So it was actually $2 million of additional assessed value. Again, now I don't believe so. I think it's just it's a flat mill that we're talking about, what Carrie was discussing. Before, again, with the transfer, you were basically maximizing each parent's 1 million. Many people weren't doing that because they didn't need to, quite frankly. It was a primary residence of any value plus another $1 million of assessed. I helped a family. They were able to pass on primary residence was in Kentfield, and they owned multiple commercial/residential spaces throughout San Anselmo and Larkspur, and they were able to squeeze in maybe 4 or 5 additional properties, again, under mom and dad's old property tax basis. Again, there's a group that say, why not? They should be able to do so. And then there's the other camp that says, well, that's why Prop 19 came about. They're having their cake and eating it as well. So, it just depends on, I guess, what kind of which lens you've got on.
Right.
Any way you slice it, the state of California is looking for more money.
Absolutely.
That's the whole reason that this came about.
Absolutely. And that's why I was trying to say that this may be just a, foreshadowing to, we're seeing it at the state level. Don't be surprised if we see some sweeping changes at the federal level as well.
Well, I put in the chat box that the federal government is currently spending twice what they're pulling in. Twice. Imagine if you had a budget where you made X dollars a month, but you were allowed to spend twice that much.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I think we made our point, and hopefully, we have the awareness now that you're not stuck in Marin County only, and only in 10 counties. And we'd love to help anyone who thinks they can't, get the same property, if not something of lesser value, somewhere else in California. So that's not the case anymore. Where are you going to go? Well, you can go anywhere now from California. So that's great.
Right. And you could just come up to Santa Rosa. And a lot of you that know me know that I'm living in Santa Rosa right now in Rincon
nice
Valley. Michael's been here, Carrie has been here. And, you can get a nice 3 or 4 bedroom house, like 14 to 1600 square feet in the low 6s. It's been updated. Close to the wine country, 40 minutes to Novato.
Are you telling everybody to move out of Marin, Kathleen?
Not necessarily. I'm just saying there's options. I still have my condo, and my heart is so in Novato. I've been in Novato since 1986.
I know
but there are options. You don't have to leave the state. I know a lot of people are, and we are a highly regulated state in many ways, which I know a lot of people have issue with, but we're also a huge consumer advocacy state. And, that I think has a lot of good value to it, that California does protect the consumer, and we always have been a leader in innovation. You have Stanford and Palo Alto and, all these different things that have happened. And, it's still happening. It's still a very desirable place to live. One of the things that the problem I see with Marin County right now, not everyone can afford $1 million house. We have some of our children and, that have really good jobs, double income. One works for Salesforce, the other works for Google type of a thing. They can work anywhere. But there's a lot of working people, that they'll never, most people that live in Marin County, they couldn't even afford to buy their own house in today's dollars.
Amen, sister.
So, we're just hoping that this can help generate more inventory. And, the reason why Michael and I have done this, and we will continue to provide these sort of informational seminars, chats, whatever you want to call them, to, we're a resource, and we can bring great people like Amir to come in and talk and, answer some of our questions about these issues. And, Zoom is such a great platform because we don't have to leave the comfort of our homes. We can just sit in front of our screen and have a glass of wine or a cup of coffee and, see each other. It's great.
Kathleen, thank you for bringing the awareness of this new proposition to everyone, because this is very important. A lot of people don't even know it passed. And
I know.
This is truly a way to show that you can continue to live in California. May not want to live where you are now, but list your property with you and go find somewhere else that's a lot less costly if that's what you wish.
Correct. Yeah, great.
Sandia has a question. What if you want to stay in Marin? You can do that.
Oh, yeah.
You can definitely do that.
Yeah, there's someone that I know casually from Rolling Hills. They sold their house right near the club on Andreas Court. They sold their house for like $950, and they bought a condo in Park Haven, for like $480. So they carried their taxes. They're in the same area, the northwest corridor, which they really, really like. So very, very possible to do that. Yeah. So it does open up some possibilities. It's not the be all end all solution, but it does create some opportunities for a lot of people.
Thank you,
So I
Kathleen.
think you're welcome. I think that right now we can close up and everyone can go on to dinner or order or whatever they're going to do tonight.
And thanks, Amir.
Thanks, guys.
Thank
you,
you,
Amir.
Amir. Thank you, guys. For bringing
Yeah,
this
so-
up.
Thank you.
And Michael, thank you for
Kathleen.
recording it. And if anybody has any questions, reach out to Michael, reach out to me, reach out to Amir. We thank you for your presence and your attention tonight. We really appreciate all of you.
Thank you so
everyone.
much. All right.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Good night.
Good night.